Greetings and salutations, and this is TechRadon here, back with more Hi-Fi Rush. And yeah, we are back at the guy that gave us trouble before, but now we have Macaron who can help us beat this guy. So enemies with the orange markings on them, they're usually green robots with like a gray shield that has orange markings on it. Can have their armor chipped away. Armor or shields. Some of them have like an armor piece like this one has, but some of them have like whole shields made of it. But basically, you're gonna want to use Macaron on these types of enemies to break their shields. The first break will make their shields look like that. And if I'm not mistaken, I think you have to, yeah, you have to use it again to officially break them off. And until then, you don't really do damage. You see, I was using peppermint there and everything, and the robot wasn't really staggering or anything. That kind of showed that, oh, hey, we got to break the shields a second time, you know? Like, it's a pretty neat gameplay design. I think this game excels in pretty much every area when it comes to, like, gameplay design. And that is an example of one of them, because, like, in a lesser game, you just break the shields instantly. But this game requires you to do it twice, which is a little more skill, you know? It takes a little more skill, because you have to try not to get hit while you're waiting on the cooldown to end. And if there's other enemies around, then you can focus on those other enemies while you do so. Yeah, I'm talking over this robot, and unfortunately, Macaron, I'm sorry, Macaron. But I really don't care that I'm talking over these robots. They're kind of annoying after the first couple. They're funny at first, but they do get annoying. They're probably the only part in the game that annoys me. But part of me feels like these robots were meant to be annoying, because there's that one in the first level who bugs you if you just walk past him. So I do feel like they were intentionally made to be annoying.
AR labs. Close enough, right?
Chai, there's a big difference between AR and AI. AR, I don't remember what the exact what AR exactly means, but I do know it's usually like simulation stuff. And AI steals people's art and makes fake ass art with no consistent art style that should just burn. Yes, I'm going to bring up my stance on that. I am very anti-AI art. There are some things I think AI is okay for, like if you want to do like a goofy song cover like the Minecraft Villager version of Never Gonna Give You Up. Like I ain't gonna be against that. I'm also not gonna be against people using it for creative purposes, like AI voices for creative purposes. Like if you ever heard of Glorb, that's something Glorb does. He uses AI SpongeBob voices, but he makes really good songs out of them, and he doesn't do anything to really like. He doesn't do anything to take away from the actual voice actors, is what I'm getting at, because the actual voice actors wouldn't be rapping on those songs. You know what I mean? Like the case where I'm against AI voices is if you're taking money from the actual voices, like the voice actors, singers, whatever. But if you're not doing that, then it's harmless. But in the case of AI art, it's always stealing. It's always stealing, no matter what. No matter what you're using it for. The only thing I give a pass for AI art on is if you want to use it for like, say if you're like someone who RPs online, roleplays online and stuff. You can use it for a face claim for an OC, or like say if you're like, if you just need like a background for something. You can't draw, and there's not really an artist you can commission for it. Then go for it. Those are kind of harmless. I'm more so getting on the idea of if there's commissioned artists out there that can draw it for you, or if there's like actual art drawn by humans out there that you can like kind of shout out when you use the image, then you're fine. But the problem with AI art is it doesn't credit its sources. So like the art it steals from, you ain't gonna know what art that is. you're not. So you can't credit the sources, therefore it's stealing. Is basically what I'm getting at. And I'm very against that. I'm very against AI art. I'm only against, like I said, AI voices if they take away from voice actors and singers. But in cases like what Glorb does, or what, or those like goofy AI covers, they're fine. They're harmless.
Ready for more?
But AI art, I have a big gripe with. I have a big gripe with. But I'm not gonna get into that. I don't want to get too negative in this video. Just know it's funny too, because you know what? I am gonna get into it a little bit. It's funny too, because whenever I see people defend AI art, they're like, they don't actually have a defense. You ever notice that? Like, people who defend AI art and say that it's like valid and all that stuff, they don't actually have reasons, they just like it. And that's fine. Sometimes liking stuff is reason enough, but they can't just ignore the issues with it. You can still like something and acknowledge the issues with it. I think that's something many people don't realize these days. Like I just pointed out earlier, those like hit robots and Hi-Fi Rush are annoying. But do you think that ruins the game for me? No. No. That's the one thing in the game that bugs me. The one thing in a fantastic game. It's like, it's not necessarily a similar thing to AI art, because Hi-Fi Rush is a masterpiece and AI art is art theft. So it's not exactly the same thing, but it's like, you can still like AI art. I mean, I don't know why you would. You can still like AI art and acknowledge that it's stealing. You know, you can still do that because it is art theft, and that's why I'm against it. Now, see, I wouldn't mind if like someone created like an AI art tool where it's like you draw the picture and then it kind of like corrects things for you. Like you could tell it what to fix. Like say if your lines are a little squiggly, maybe you tell it straighten lines or something. Like maybe stuff like that. Maybe just like an AI art tool. I'd be perfectly fine with that, because that doesn't take away from artists. If anything, it helps them. But I'm against AI art making its own art, like completely making its own art, because it's not making its own art, it's stealing. Because like similar to real artists, AI art has to use references, but unlike real artists who can look at the reference and redraw something similar but different, AI art is just going to snatch it and paste it and mix it with other things. That's the issue there. If you could make AI art work like a person, where like, even then it's still not good because it's taking work from like commissioned artists. So like, I'm still against it then, but like at least you're not stealing art in that case. Like if you could like make if you could make an AI art program that instead of like snatching the picture and pasting it somewhere into its mixture monstrosity art, quote unquote art piece, maybe if you could get it to like, instead of doing that, it tries to simulate something similar like a person would do when they're using a reference, then you get rid of one of the problems. But it's still an issue of like, it takes work from commissioned artists, and I think that's wrong. I think that's really wrong. I know some people can't afford commissioned artists, but that's why you find artists. This is what I do if I can't afford a commissioned artist and I can't draw a character or something immediately. I'll literally look up an artist who actually draws their own art, use their image, and I will credit them. You know why? Because you can credit them when it's from the artist. Like I said, that's like the main issue with AI art. It's not actually crediting the artist. And you have no way of crediting the artist because you don't know all the images that were used. So it's like art theft that you can't even like fix, kind of. You can't even find a way to like make it not art theft unless you were to make an AI program, like I said, that uses references instead of pasting them together into monstrosity of an image. And I call it a monstrosity of an image because even though AI art's getting better and it's not like having all these like stuff that it was, all the messiness it had before, there's still many issues with it. As an artist myself, as a person who draws characters and stuff, I can like see these from a mile away. The one issue, the main one you'll notice, is that there's no consistent art style. There's no consistent art style in any AI art piece. There really isn't. When you look at it, at first it might look that way, but then there's like some parts of it that will look off, that will look like a completely different style. That is the first telltale sign that it's AI art. Because when you notice that, you know a human did not draw it or create it. And that is the most noticeable thing. Obviously, there's the thing that happens sometimes where there's like extra limbs or weird stuff like that, but that doesn't seem to happen as often anymore because the AI art I've seen more recently doesn't have that issue as much. But I'm still against it on two levels. It's art theft and it's taking work from commissioned artists. And even if, like, here's the thing. Even if you can't commission an artist, like I said, it's still good. It's still the right thing to do to use an artist's image and credit them. Because at least you're, like, shouting out the artist. You're giving them, like, you're introducing more people to that artist by doing that. And in a way, you're kind of giving them exposure a little bit. Even if you don't have as many people looking at your stuff as that artist already does. You could still, like, introduce new people to that artist. And it's like, that's the right way to do it if you can't commission an artist and you can't draw yourself, in my honest opinion. That might just be me, but I'm just someone who has strong morals. I'm also someone who has a passion for art. So those combined are kind of the two major reasons I'm against AI art on so many levels. It's just terrible. And yeah, I know I'm getting into an AI art like rant, or not. That's AR. I know I'm getting into an AI art rant in the middle of a Hi-Fi Rush video, and I'm really sorry for that. But I feel like I needed to take my stance on this because, like, it's an opinion I've had for a while, and I've been trying not to say in video. But, like, sometimes I feel like I need to get these opinions out. I try, like, the only opinions I try to hold back on are more so political ones, because all my political opinions are basically, I hate all politicians. And then, like, expansions on that. Reasons why I feel that way and stuff. I just don't want to be that guy that's just like, oh, I hate all of this. And I'm going to ramble about it all video and get political, real political and stuff. Like, I'm not going to do that. Because I'm not here to, like, have political discussions or to make people think about politics. I'm here to, like, I'm basically here to ramble about stuff I care about. Like art. Play video games, make jokes. I haven't been able to make too many jokes with Hi-Fi Rush yet, but that's mainly because it's mainly because a lot of the humor from Hi-Fi Rush, it creates itself. Like, its dialogue and stuff could be really funny at points.
So, Zonzo, where's your epic set piece?
You common folk don't understand quality.
Well, damn.
Just crave explosions. If that's what you want.
Zonzo, I'm sorry to say, my guy, but you getting your ass kicked right now.
We're gonna teach him a lesson.
Balancing creativity with realistic goals is the mark of a good leader.
It's bugging me though. My phone's charging right now, and I have an issue where the charger keeps falling out when I pick up the phone, so I can't really like Google it or anything. But it's bugging me that I don't remember what AR exactly means. I know it's simulations, but I don't know what the A and R actually stand for. Like, I know AI is artificial intelligence, but what is
Get ready for what's coming.
I'm probably gonna look it up after this video or later in the video once my phone's charged enough. So no one needs to really say it in the comments because I'm already gonna know it by the time this video goes up. But it is bugging me that I can't remember off the top of my head what AR means. It is bugging me because I did know what it mean. I did know what it meant. Why can't I talk right? I did know the meaning. There we go. Sorry, my grammar was not right for a minute.
Let me out this.
I did know the meaning at some point. Hold on.
Gotta roll up my sleeves.
I'm going to... What does AR mean?
No problem.
My phone's at 88%. I can take it off the charger for a minute. I'm trying to get to 100 so I don't gotta plug it up for a while, but I can take it off the charger for a minute just to search this up because we need to know this for the video. Okay, it's telling me a gun meaning. No. Augmented reality. There we go. I thought it was artificial reality. That's what I was thinking in my head, but augmented reality. Again, simulation stuff.
Seeing all of this yelling and chaos makes me yearn for the old days of Mr. Macaroni.
But
I hope he returns one day
yeah.
so I can once again do a great job for him.
That's all I could really say. Sorry, I just read something and then like I was like, this is an issue I gotta deal with, but I can't deal with it mid-video. We still got we got 24 minutes left of this video. Jeez, I did not realize the video was that long when I started doing commentary. I mean, that's not very long from one of my videos as of late because I've been doing longer videos. But it's longer than I thought it was, because when I started doing commentary, I thought it was going to be like 30-something minutes, but it's 40. Zonzo, you need to chill, bro. You crazier than the Joker right now.
Is this epic enough for you?
Zonzo's VA is on point, though. I gotta say that now. As a voice acting nerd, my favorite voices in this game are definitely, like, for Zonzo. I want to say Zonzo, Peppermint, Corsica, Macaro, and, Macaron, and, what's the dude's name? Roquefort, who we'll get to later. I think their VAs do the best jobs. Roger Craig Smith is an amazing voice actor, but his Kale feels weird. And the reason why it feels weird is because I've heard Roger do more intelligent voices. He's the current voice actor for Nitrous Brio from the Crash games, for fuck's sake. And I know they didn't want him to do like a mad scientist voice or anything like that, which makes sense because Kale's not a mad scientist. But it's weird that he's supposed to be an intellectual character, but his voice doesn't sound very intelligent, which is really what my issue with Kale's voice is. And I think that's more voice direction. I don't think that's really Roger's fault. I think that's more voice direction. It's a similar thing with the Sonic games. Like, there's sometimes where Roger excels as Sonic, but most of the time he sucks as Sonic. And I do believe it's a voice direction thing, because I think Roger could be an amazing Sonic if he was directed right all the time. But, you know, the Sonic series has always had like a bit of messy voice direction. The only time where like the voice direction in the Sonic series was consistently good was between, I want to say, 2007 and 2010. Like the last few years, Jason Griffith was Sonic. That's the only time it seemed like the voice direction was like on point the whole time. Because you had the voice clips from Sonic Rush Adventure, which I know that doesn't need much, those don't need much voice direction, but they're still there. You have the voice acting in Secret Rings, which is decent enough. You have the awesome voice acting in Unleashed and Black Knight. So that was the only point where it was consistently good. And honestly, I think the 4Kids era was a point where it was like getting better as it went. Like all the VAs got better as they went. And the weird part about that is that's what should have happened for Roger and the rest of the modern cast, but it's not what happened. The only one that kind of like seemed on point, the only ones that kind of seem on point are the voices for Eggman, who was already there from the 4Kids era, Mike Pollock. I also think Travis Willingham was a good Knuckles. He wasn't the best Knuckles. I definitely prefer Dan Green and I think Scott, what was his name? Scott Dreer? The guy that voiced him in the Adventure games and Heroes. Those two are the best Knuckles in my opinion. I think the guy who voices him in the Sonic movie, in the Sonic 2 movie, is the second best, or not second, well, technically third best after those two. And then after that would be Travis Willingham. Then I want to say the voice. See, I'm not counting the OVA voice because I don't remember what it sounds like. So the only other two voices I have in mind are the ones from actually the Prime Knuckles voices are definitely next up on my list there. Actually, I'd put those both above Travis Willingham. Not the normal Knuckles voice, but the ones for the alternative versions. Like, I forgot what their names were, but for Sonic Prime, I think the alternative versions of Knuckles, who I believe are voiced by Vincent Tong, if I remember correctly, I think they're all really well done. It's just the main Knuckles voice that's often Sonic Prime, and I definitely would put him probably at the bottom. No, I think I still put the Sonic Underground voice below it. If I remember the Sonic Underground voice sounding a bit unfitting, in all honesty. And I don't know if I'm remembering that right. And apparently Ryan Drummond voiced Knuckles in Sonic Shuffle, but I haven't heard enough of that voice because I never played Sonic Shuffle, so I can't really judge Ryan Drummond's Knuckles. So yeah, I like I'm ranking Knuckles voices of all things, but I think David B. Mitchell is not the worst Knuckles. I do think he's like right under Travis Willingham probably, and honestly, I think most Knuckles voices are pretty on point, with the exception of the underground voice and the main voice he has in Prime, outside of the alternate version voices, which are actually pretty good. I forgot who, for some reason, they got a different VA for the main Knuckles voice in Prime, and he just doesn't sound right. I think Vincent Tong should have just voiced that Knuckles too. Because if I remember correctly, I could be wrong, but I think it's Vincent Tong, who also voiced the Ninjago, for anybody who grew up on that show like I did. Or kind of grew up on that show. I was already 11, 12, whatever when that show came out, but I watched it for a few years and it was pretty good. But yeah.
Here I come, gift basket.
What was I gonna say? Out of the current voice cast, current after like some voice changes, honestly, I think the voice changes for Blaze and Silver are really on point. I actually do think they are, because I never cared for Silver's voice before his current one, and his current one is really good. If you don't know his current one, and I'm sorry if I'm butchering the name in any way, I just never heard it said out loud. His current one is Bryce Papenbrook, who also voiced Makoto Nayagi in what was his name? Nagito, I think. Makoto Nayagi and Nagito from Danganronpa. There's another voice I know him for, and I know it's gonna like pop up later after I do this video, but I'm just not gonna bother thinking of it right now. But he voices Makoto Nayagi, and I think he's a really on-point voice actor for Silver. I think he fits perfectly. He manages to sound like the other actors without their whininess, because something I never liked about Silver's past actors, which were Quentin Flynn and whoever the fuck was voicing him in the 4Kids era. Quentin Flynn's not a bad VA, by the way. He's actually my favorite engine, which is why I was disappointed they brought Corey Burton back for engine, because Quentin Flynn was the one who was able to actually mimic the sound of the original engine voice good enough, and basically they had to, what I'm understanding, at least what I think happened, is they had to filter his voice so heavily in Crash 4 because he didn't sound right in Insane Trilogy. He's even uncredited in Crash 4, but I'm pretty sure it's still him. It could be Quentin Flynn, but I feel like they wouldn't have left him as uncredited. I don't know. I'm pretty sure it's Corey Burton voicing Engine, because it's him voicing Oxide in Crash 4. And I know it's him voicing Oxide because his Oxide voice is actually really good. The Crash series has had some weird voice casting decisions outside of Crash 4. Like, okay, mainly what I'm talking about is the Titans games, the Insane Trilogy and CTR Nitro Fuel, because Crash 4 is pretty on point with its voice casting. I think everybody does a phenomenal job in that game. That's honestly, as much as I love Maurice LaMarche as a voice actor, I do think Roger's impression of him fits Embryo better in a way, because it feels more natural for some reason. I don't know why, but it does. It could just be voice direction, or it could just be because, you know, Roger is trying to do a voice, where I think Maurice LaMarche was just doing his Orson Welles with a little bit of stuttering on it. But yeah, I do think Roger is the best Embryo we've ever had. Lex Lang has always been the best Cortex. I know some people prefer Clancy Brown, but honestly, I never cared for Clancy Brown as Cortex too much. I liked him in Crash Nitro Kart, but that was kind of it. Because outside of that, and I don't think it's Clancy's fault, because Clancy's a really good voice actor, but outside of Nitro Kart, he never sounded like he was really giving it his all. The reason why I like him in Nitro Kart is because it sounds like every line was him, like, actually, like, giving a lot of effort. Which is really weird, because it was the last game he voiced Cortex in, and it was also, apparently, like, they didn't pay or treat him well. So it's weird that his last game would be his best performance as Cortex, in my opinion. Well, actually, his performance of Cortex in the original Crash 3 was also really good. I'm not even going to cap on that. I never played the original CTR. I don't care for his voice in the original Crash 2. I think he sucked in the Wrath of Cortex. But he was pretty good in the original Crash 3 in Nitro Kart, I would say. The reason why his voice in the original Crash 2 bugs me is because that was before they introduced Uka Uka, and his voice becomes Uka Uka at times, and you can't unhear it. You really can't unhear it. I do think Clancy is the best Uka Uka, though. While I do think Lex Lang is a way better Cortex, Clancy is the best Uka Uka, and I kind of wish they brought him back as Uka Uka somehow, instead of, like, John DiMaggio. No offense to John DiMaggio, he's probably the best Tidy, in my opinion. I originally would have said the original Tidy VA, but after hearing, like, his take of Tidy in the more recent games, I do think John DiMaggio is the best Tidy. But I'm gonna shut up now.
My distractions. I've been working on a pet project. Something with unrestricted creative freedom. A mix of spectacle and quality.
Peppermint? How's that budget looking?
It's almost gone.
My masterpiece! Now everyone will see that I am... Defunded?
Don't just stand there. Finish him.
Oh, right.
This is all because of you!
Enough talk. Now let's see what you have on Spectra.
Okay. Zanzo would have hit any information on Spectra. It's most likely in a password-protected database decrypted with a...
Here it is, right on the desktop.
Oh.
Okay, let's see. Spectra. Cognitive manipulation, regulation of mental stimuli. They plan for complete mind control, just like I thought.
Great!
No, bad! And Spectra seems to be approved for activation.
That certainly spells the end for Mr. Chai.
Can we shut it down now?
According to this, only with the passkeys of all the bosses.
Are you saying we still need...
There are 6 bosses and 6 passkeys. We've already taken down 2. We still need 4 bosses and 4 passkeys.
Then what are we waiting for? We gotta kick some ass. Cue the music!
The record stops here.
We know all about Spectra, Kale. You're not getting away with it. No one is washing my brain.
Cute. But you're in my facility surrounded by security. And you. I thought we were done. Yet here you are.
Shall I take them in, sir?
Yes, of course I want you to take them in. Why else would I bring you with...
Can we, just one... Sorry, just take a second. You know that guy?
Can we do this later?
Sure, right, later. I think I know how we can escape. Really? Do you trust me?
Are we actually giving them a moment, sir?
Just follow me. All right, come and get me. Run!
Okay, back to what I was saying, and I know this video has been off topic all around, but I'm kind of just enjoying like talking about whatever, so I'm just gonna keep it up. Like I was saying, there's been some weird voice casting decisions in both the Insane Trilogy and CTR Nitro.
Get back in at least 2 pieces.
The Insane Trilogy, there's only a couple of them. And the ones I really take issue with in the Insane Trilogy are Engine, which they brought back his worst VA for. They really did, because if you listen, go back and listen to the first cutscene of The Wrath of Cortex. And I don't understand why they even got Corey Burton to voice Engine in that game, because the original Crash voice actor was still there, and he also voiced Engine in the original trilogy, so I don't really understand why they felt the need to make Corey Burton voice Engine. He was there to voice Entropy, and I always thought his Entropy was decent. Still, like, it is the worst Entropy, but it's not a case of, like, Engine where it was actually bad. It's more so that Michael Enzyme and Entropy's current VA from Crash 4 just do a way better job. It's like comparing 2 phenomenal performances versus a good performance is basically what it is. Because even his original Entropy in Crash 4 wasn't that bad. I would say it was pretty good, all things considered. Quentin Flynn was always my favorite Engine, and I think he was the one who mimicked the original voice the best. I think if I were to rank the Engine voices, it'd be a tie between Quentin Flynn and I think, what was his name? Brandon O'Brien, I think was his name, who voiced, he voiced all the characters, almost all the characters in the original trilogy, with the exception of Cortex and Uka Uka in the second and third game, Dingo Dio, and Entropy. Entropy was voiced by Michael Enzyme. I forget who voiced Dingo Dio, and Clancy Brown voiced Cortex and Uka Uka. I think Nitro Kart was really where the series started getting really good post Brandon O'Brien voices, because even though Brandon O'Brien still voiced Crash in The Wrath of Cortex, it seemed like every other character he voiced they were trying to recast. They recasted Engine. I think the only other character he voiced that was in that game was Tiny, and they didn't even give him a voice. And the next game he's voiced by DiMaggio, who I already said I think is the best Tiny. If I were to say my personal favorite voice actor for each Crash character from the Insane Trilogy in particular, maybe I'll add in like a couple extra like Crunch or Nina, but from the Insane Trilogy in particular, I think Cortex, his best voice actor is Lex Lane. Uka Uka's best one is... Okay, Cortex's best one is Lex Lane. Clancy Brown is second, and then Brandon O'Brien was the least of them. He voiced him in the first Crash game ever, the original Crash one. Uka Uka's best voice is Clancy Brown. Second would be Alex Fernandez, and third would be John DiMaggio. Except for CTR Nitro Fuel. I actually love CTR Nitro Fuel's Uka Uka, and I think that version, if that was what they went with it, even though I do think it would have taken away from the intimidation factor, but if they would have went with that voice in say Trilogy 2, John DiMaggio would be above Alex Fernandez for me, just because I love the Uka Uka's Rib Shack sounding voice. Welcome to Uka Uka's Rib Shack. Like, it's just funny. And I just love it. But moving on to other characters, Crash, I think his best voice actor is Scott White. No offense to Jess Hardell, but if you hear Crash's voice, and it's really not too much to really judge on because Crash has always just made noises rather than talking. But his best voice, I think, is Scott White, because if you hear his voice in Crash 4 and Crash Team Rumble, it's like the best he's ever sounded. Jess Hardell is a close second. Third would be Brandon O'Brien, and fourth would be Steve Blum, who I think only voiced him in Nitro Kart. I don't know who voiced Crash in Twin Sandy, if he had a voice at all. I don't think he even made noises in Twin Sandy, if I remember correctly. For Coco, I actually, for a while, I would have said Debbie Derryberry was her best voice, but now I think the Crash 4 one is, because I think it fits the character more. Debbie Derryberry is a close second, though. I really love the voice she does for Coco. It's like a higher pitched Jimmy Neutron, but it fits Coco's Brainiac personality really well. I don't think it fits as well as Coco's new voice in Crash 4, because Coco's new voice in Crash 4 kind of like hits all sides of her personality better, whereas Debbie Derryberry was kind of like more focused on her Brainiac side. So I do think the Crash 4 voice is her best one. And I'm sorry if I don't remember the names of some of these VAs. I'm still getting used to like the new Crash cast, even though the game's been out for 4 years. Embryo. His best VA is Roger Craig Smith, hands down. He's only had 3 voice actors though, so he's had 4. So he's not, and one of them is awful, but the other 3 are really good. So when it comes to Maurice LaMarche and Brandon O'Brien, I really can't tell you which one I like more. I do have a bias for Maurice LaMarche, but Brandon O'Brien's Brio was also just really good. It was one of his better voices. Because the thing about Brandon O'Brien in the original Crash trilogy, he had some really good voices. Like, his Embryo, Engine, and Tiny were on point. But then, like, his Crash was kind of just okay. And then his, Cortex sucked. I guess that's why they recasted, Cortex as early as the second game. Glad they did that, by the way. But yeah, I think I'd put Maurice LaMarche just above Brandon O'Brien, but just barely. But only because of his performance in Mind Over Mutant. Because his Insane Trilogy performance is kind of off a little bit, but I think that's voice direction, not really his fault. Then you have Brandon O'Brien, and then of course, Tom Kenny, who sucks ass as Embryo. I don't know who made that casting decision. Not only the casting decision, but I've literally heard Tom Kenny do a better voice that would have fit Embryo. For anybody who's watched the 2012 Ninja Turtles, he voices a character called Dr. Rockwell, and I think that voice, with a little stutter added in, would have actually fit Embryo. But they didn't have him do that. Instead, they had him do a voice that sounded nothing like the character at all. Like, didn't even fit. Didn't even work as a new take on the character. Okay, we're almost out of time here, so I'm probably only going to focus on, like, the most important characters outside the ones I just talked about, which is Engine, Tiny, Dingodile, and Entropy. So I'm going to do a quick rundown here. I already said my favorite Engine was Quentin Flynn, followed by Brandon O'Brien, then Nolan North, who was hilarious as Engine, and then Corey Burton. For Entropy, it would be his new VA, then it would be Michael Enzyme, then it would be Corey Burton. For Dingodile, it would be Fred Tatasciore, his original VA, and then Dwight Schultz. and then Nolan North. Nolan North voiced him in the Crash of the Titans DS game. Quickly. For Tiny Tiger, John DiMaggio's best, then Brandon O'Brien, and then, what was his name? Chris something, who voiced him in Titans. He sucked. But that's all I gotta say. We're ending off the video here. Bye.